A fight that did not quite live up to the hype was the main event of this UFC fight night in the middleweight division between Jared Cannonier and Sean Strickland. It definitely had the potential to be a scrap and to be a barn burner, but stylistically, I felt that there was a strong possibility that we were going to get this kind of fight mostly out of Jared Cannonier. I felt like Sean Strickland pretty much fought a Sean Strickland kind of fight for the most part, and Cannonier was a little tight, a little tentative. Found some big shots. Let's see what you guys have to say. Omar, give us your take of the decision. Somewhat controversial with it being a split decision. Sean Strickland was pretty upset with the way that the scorecards played out. What's your take?
So I know Mark has watched this a second time and has a different take from the first time, but when we did watch this the first time, we all knew the scorecards were going to be all over the place.
They were.
Regardless, and they definitely were. And I think regardless of what we thought the scorecards were in that moment, I think we all recognize that there were smaller arguments to be made for all of these other little random-ass scorecards. The rounds were very close. The fight, I thought, was very close. If I looked at the fight as a whole, I think it'd be different than if I looked at it round by round. I did think Sean Strickland did more work. I thought he did a lot more damage. But I think there were some visible differences in the way that the strikes were. There wasn't really a lot of turnover from Strickland. A lot of it was a lot of contact, not a lot of power, not a lot of hip rotation. It's just literally just making contact.
It's a great
point. Whereas Cannonier was trying to hit a home run for all intents and purposes. And every time he made contact with Strickland's face, Strickland popped back. There was a lot of power in those punches, and to Strickland's credit, he's got a chin. He ate a lot of shit that I think a lot of people would have went down off of. But they were very few and far between from Cannonier as they were for Strickland. But Strickland didn't really do a ton of visible damage, and that potentially could have swayed the judges in different directions at the end of each individual round. I think if you judge the fight as a whole, it'd be hard to say that Sean Strickland didn't do more work in 5 rounds than Cannonier did. But again, I knew it was going to be a tough fight to score. I knew the judges were going to get destroyed for it. And I do want to give credit to Strickland's corner, because Strickland's corner was very honest with him. Like, I don't know what the score is. I don't know what the judges are doing right now. This is a close fight. You need to go out there and you need to finish him. And he did not, but we need a lot more corner with a lot more honesty in those situations, because telling these guys, yeah, you're up 4 rounds, and then they go out and they're fucking dancing around and having a great time like they've won, and they get caught in this like, oh, well, I thought I won when they didn't, it gets weird. So credit to the corner for that, but it was a messy fight as far as the judging score was concerned.
Okay, Mark, let's bring you in here. Give us your take, your assessment of the decision of the fight overall.
Yeah, I mean, as Omar said, watching that fight live, I was torn on every round. It was all over the place. I think everyone was torn. The commentary was torn. Obviously, the judges were torn. When I sat down and rewatched that fight, I'm honestly a little confused as to why I was so torn. Like, it's a close fight, don't get me wrong, but I think Sean Strickland wins all of the first 3 rounds of that fight, and he might have even won the 4th. Like, I don't want to give the wrong impression. I think definitely 3 through 5 were all very close rounds. So if you want to give Cannonier all those and say he won the fight, I can't really hate you for it. It's really only 1 and 2 that I think absolutely have to go one way, which is Strickland once I rewatched it. Mm-hmm. But I even think it's tough to justify not giving Strickland 1 of 3 or 4. I can't help but feel he got a little bit robbed in this fight. My guess is that he feels the same, and I think really the story for him was that he kind of had a mastery of the boxing range all fight long that he was able to maintain. Like, he stood his ground. He had great head movement. He was 1 or 2 inches outside of so many shots that Jared threw that I think maybe people thought landed live, and they were stopping, an inch or 2 short, full extension. He was not hitting Sean. He blocked a ton of punches with his arms, with his hands. Even Dean Thomas said it on the broadcast. He was like, man, a ton of these punches are hitting Strickland in the arms. So I don't know how much credit we are giving to strikes that are landing on arms, but there was a lot of them. And Sean was really, keeping up some beautiful footwork. He was popping the jab all fight long. And, yeah, I think a lot of what played into it is what Omar said. He was working a lot behind the jab. Typical style, hands down, stepping back, pop. That's what Sean Strickland does. He wasn't turning over the hips. He wasn't throwing the more winging punches, not even really too many hooks, which Cannonier was doing. And Cannonier was maybe walking forward a bit more. And I think in a fight that was that close visually, maybe that's what the judges went to. But you really watch that one back. To me, it's tough to say Sean Strickland didn't win that fight. And Jared made good adjustments. He started utilizing the leg kick, which was working really well for him. He did find some ways to get inside. But I don't think he did enough. So, competitive fight, obviously, but if that's up to me, I think the other guy should have got the nod there.
So it should also be noted. It should also be noted that Jared Cannonier still annoys the fuck out of me because, and I said this in the text message. You get to a point in these fights where it's literally going to be out of reach, and at some point, you have to do something to make a significant difference in how the fight is going. You can't tell me that Jared Cannonier didn't know how close that fight was by the end of the third round. How are you still not throwing anything in rounds 4 and 5? Like
I think Jared Cannonier has only one way of fighting, which is why I've never been a Jared Cannonier guy. I don't think he can do other things. Whereas if you told Sean Strickland, hey, Sean, you got to win rounds 4 and 5. You're down 2-1 right now. I think he could have fought much differently and done it. If you told that to Jared, I think he would have been like, all right, well, hopefully I do, and fought the exact same way.
We saw shades of promise in that Brunson fight. And
did he
been
just
back.
clip him? I don't know. I feel like he is one of the most limited is not the right word, but I can't think of a better word. He is one of the most limited top tier fighters that we've ever seen. Like he can't open his game up. It just is what it is, and it works or it doesn't.
I would say straight. He's like a straightforward kind of a fighter. Yeah, he's gonna fight his game plan.
So I went on MMA Decisions because I was curious about this fight. Every single round is essentially a 50-50 round. Yeah. Every single one. So it's, like I said, it was a messy fight. It was not an easy fight to score. And I think one of these problems, I think they're starting to talk about it a lot more now, but it's really the criteria for these fights is how these judges are expected to score these fights is really arbitrary, and it's very much left up to the interpretation. And it does influence or allow the influence of bias when it comes to people and their preference in how fights are fought. You know what I mean? You're not going to tell me a jiu-jitsu guy's not going to be more preferential over certain positions and aspects of a fight that are on the ground than a guy who grew up boxing. It just... Their outlooks on the fights, I think, are going to be completely different. I think at some point, if we want to fix MMA judging, you got to fix the criteria.
Well, of course, yeah. Well, guys, we've solved enough problems already on this show tonight. We've solved lake effect, and the fact that we have to evacuate the city of Buffalo, and no one should live in that region anymore, guys. But MMA
That's why
judging,
I fucking left.
That's for another night for us. Oh boy. Well, I don't entirely agree. I think Sean Strickland also pretty much fights the way Sean Strickland fights. He's not a game planner. He's gonna come forward. He's gonna box the way that he does in that particular way with his hands kind of down, and it works for him too.
I just think he could have turned it up if he knew that he had
I
to.
agree.
I think he thought he was winning.
But, so what? So what? How are you teeing off on a guy so consistently and you don't turn it up at all? Like, not even push the gas a little bit, see if you can redline just a smidge and see what happens, and then tone it back down if it's not working out. Like, the fact that no one changes up their pressure and their tempo or anything like that. Maybe they are playing it safe. Maybe they don't want to put themselves in bad situations. But then don't bitch. Like, if you're not going to do everything possible to win that fight, then don't bitch when you don't win off of a close fight. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
the scorecards. Oh, this is what I pulled up before I wanted to mention. Sal D'Amato scored the fight the way you would have, Mark. He gave Sean Strickland rounds 1, 2, and 3, and then also round 5.
I wouldn't have given. I thought 5 was the only round that was clearly, not clearly, but I thought 5 was the best argument for Cannonier.
Okay. Derek clearly gave Cannonier 1, 2, 3, and 5. So the exact opposite of D'Amato. And then Junichiro Kamijo scored it for Cannonier 1, 2, 4, 5. And only round 3 for Strickland.
Not a single unanimous round in the fight.
Not a single unanimous. Right. Yeah, that's right.
Crazy.
Anyhow, let's match up these guys real quick. Say again?
I wonder when the last time we saw that is.
Yeah. Anybody who knows, comment below and let us know. Let's quickly match up the winner, Jared Cannonier. So he keeps his spot. Mark, I'm interested to see where you have him in your ranking system. Mark, let me stick with you. What would you do with Cannonier next since he got the W?
I have Cannonier number 5. I think if I remember right, the UFC has him higher than that. He's 5 for me. I don't know what you do with him. He may have to wait a little bit. I know, obviously, Paulo Costa just fell out of this Whittaker fight. Is it realistic to think that they'd already give Cannonier another shot at Whittaker? I know 2 years have passed, so maybe Whittaker does need a fight, and most guys seem to be matched up. So I guess that's possible. If not, maybe he waits for the Vettori and Roman Dolidze winner. But I'm curious to see what Omar thinks.
Yeah, Omar, go.
So Jared Cannonier is number 3 on the UFC's rankings. This is another one that's kind of a mess of a division right now, and guys are just starting to climb up now at the bottom half of this ranking. But this is another one where I feel like we've recycled a few guys up here in a few fights, and you can't really argue with it. You've got Robert Whittaker, one of the best in the world, who doesn't really lose to anyone other than Izzy. Izzy just lost for the first time in the middleweight division in his career, in his MMA career. I mean, there's not a lot of movement here for Jared Cannonier to really do anything with. It'd be nice if they could do the Perth one on short notice and get Robert Whittaker that fight. I doubt that's going to happen at this point. Whittaker generally needs to cut some weight, so he would have already have needed to keep going in order, I would imagine, to make weight and all that other stuff. So, I don't know, man. Does Vettori? I don't know if Vettori has a fight lined up at this point.
Yeah, I just said Roman Dolidze.
That's right. They just did that one. Yeah, that's on my list.
Which, in retrospect, now, like, I feel like I would have rather seen Vettori Cannonier get booked. As much as that's a fun fight, I just feel like Vettori Cannonier makes more sense.
Yeah.
And like, who the hell knows what's going on with Costa? And Costa is like in number 5, 6, 7, something like that.
Yeah. Hey,
so
if
yeah,
they got him re-signed, that could work.
It's a mess. Because how far down do you go with Cannonier? Like,
you know what's an
at
idea
what
for
point
Cannonier?
does
What weight class is Chimaev fighting at next?
Who knows?
Because that's not a bad
70?
one.
Damn, you want to throw him in there? Well, I guess.
If he's going to take a middleweight fight, most of these guys are booked up. Jared Cannonier is not a bad welcome committee to middleweight.
I mean, I don't hate
Amen to
it.
that.
Cannonier either has to fight or get his ass beat. So
Yeah.
I'm about it. I'll take it.
What about Mr. Strickland, guys? Omar, give me a name for Sean Strickland.
Oh, Sean Strickland. Why don't we just throw his boy in there? Let's see Sean Strickland and Chris Curtis go at it. I'm fine with it.
Won't.
They wouldn't.
They absolutely
Maybe
will.
They would. Yeah, you're right.
So,
They probably would.
so Chris Curtis has said on in an interview, he was like, if I didn't take a fight with Sean Strickland, he would be so pissed at me. He assaults me for free on a daily basis. You think he doesn't want to get paid to assault me? He absolutely would be mad if I didn't take this fight.
That's funny.
So-
That's funny. Wow.
Fuck it, I'll watch it.
That's not bad then. I'll go the winner of this Imavov Gastelum fight that's going to open up 2023.
Oh.